Imagine a quiet, peaceful village. In this village, there are two neighbors. On the left side of the fence, we have a farmer who grows golden, beautiful wheat. On the right side of the fence, we have a rancher who raises cattle. One day, the fence breaks. A cow wanders over to the farmer's side and starts eating the wheat. The farmer is furious. His hard work is ruined. He drags the rancher to the village court and demands justice. If you're the judge, how do you rule? Your first instinct is probably very clear. You would say, the rancher is guilty. His cow trespassed and destroyed the farmer's property. The rancher must pay for the ruined wheat, and he must build a stronger fence. This feels right. It feels fair. It aligns with our basic human sense of morality. If you do damage, you pay for it. For a very long time, even the greatest economists in the world thought this exact same way. They believed in identifying the bad guy who caused the pollution or the damage, and taxing them or punishing them to make them stop. But then, a man named Ronald Coase came along and turned this entire concept upside down. He won a Nobel Prize in economics for showing us that our instinct punishing the cow owner might actually be completely wrong. In fact, ruling against the rancher might end up making the entire village poorer. Welcome to the mind-bending world of the Coase Theorem. Today, we're going to look past right and wrong and discover how the world really works when we focus on what is most efficient. To understand the Coase Theorem, we have to start by throwing away our traditional ideas of good guys and bad guys. Coase argued that in economics, harm is not a one-way street. Harm is reciprocal. What does that mean? Let's go back to our village. Yes, the cow eating the wheat harms the farmer. But if the judge orders the rancher to lock up his cows or sell them to pay a massive fine, the judge is harming the rancher. The conflict only exists because both of them want to use the exact same piece of land for different things. If there were no wheat, the cow wouldn't cause damage. If there were no cow, the wheat wouldn't get eaten. It takes two to tango. So, Coase said, the judge's job is not to punish the sinner. The judge's job is to avoid the more serious harm. The judge must ask, which ruling creates the most total wealth for the village as a whole? Let's put some simple numbers to this to make it crystal clear. No complicated math, just plain logic. Imagine the rancher's cow is a premium, highly profitable breed. By letting the cow roam and eat freely, the rancher makes a profit of $100. However, the cow eats a small patch of the farmer's wheat. The total value of the destroyed wheat is only $50. Now look at the big picture. Look at the total wealth of the village. The village gains $100 of value from the fat cow and loses $50 of value from the ruined wheat. The net gain for the village is $50. If the judge tells the rancher, you must stop your cow from crossing the line, or you must sell it, the rancher loses his $100 profit to save the farmer's $50 crop. The village as a whole just became $50 poorer. From the perspective of the whole society, stopping the cow is a terrible economic decision. But wait, you might say, that is completely unfair to the farmer. Why should he lose $50 just so the rancher can get rich? This is where the magic of the Coase Theorem truly shines. Coase said that if people can negotiate with each other easily, if what economists call transaction costs are zero, then it does not matter how the judge rules. The free market will always figure out a way to get to the most efficient outcome, and no one has to be unfairly harmed. Let's see how this works. Let's say the judge is incredibly traditional and rules in favor of the farmer. The judge says, rancher, you are forbidden from letting your cow cross the line. What happens next? Does the rancher just give up? No. The rancher knows his cow makes $100. He knows the farmer's wheat is only worth $50. So, the rancher walks over to the farmer's house, knocks on the door, and says, neighbor, I know the judge said my cow can't eat your wheat, but your wheat is only worth $50. I will pay you $75 in cold, hard cash right now if you let my cow eat that patch of wheat. The farmer does the math. If he grows the wheat, he makes $50. If he lets the cow eat it, he gets $75 from the rancher without doing any work. The farmer happily agrees. Look at the result. The rancher makes his $100, minus the $75 he paid the farmer, leaving him with $25 of pure profit. The farmer gets $75, which is better than the 50 he would have made. Both men are richer. The cow eats. The wheat is gone. The village has reached the exact same efficient outcome, regardless of the judge's strict ruling. Now let's flip it. What if the judge rules in favor of the rancher? The judge says, the rancher has the right to let his cows roam free. Farmer, it is your problem. Does the farmer just sit down and cry? No. In this scenario, the farmer looks at his crop. He says, my wheat is worth $50. But wait, to stop the cow, I would have to pay the rancher to lock it up. The rancher makes $100 from that cow. I would have to pay him more than $100 to stop him. I only make $50. That makes no sense. So, the farmer chooses to let the wheat get eaten, and maybe he builds a fence next year, or plants something cows don't like. Once again, the cow eats. The wheat is gone. The most valuable economic activity, the $100 cow, continues. This is the brilliant central takeaway of the Coase Theorem. If transaction costs are zero, meaning people can talk, bargain, and trade without any fees, lawyers, or friction, the initial allocation of legal rights does not matter for economic efficiency. People will always negotiate their way to the outcome that creates the most total wealth. Let's step away from the farm for a moment and look at a famous real-world historical case to prove this isn't just theory. In 19th century England, there was a doctor who built an office next to a confectioner, a man who made candies and sweets. For years, they lived in harmony. The confectioner used heavy machinery to grind sugar and mix his candies. It was noisy and it caused vibrations, but it didn't bother anyone. Then, the doctor built a new consultation room right up against the shared wall. Suddenly, the noise and vibrations from the candy machines were so loud that the doctor couldn't hear his patient's heartbeats through his stethoscope. The doctor sued the confectioner, demanding he stop the machines. The traditional view says, the candy maker is making the noise. He's the bad guy. Stop him. But the Coase Theorem asks, whose business is worth more to the neighborhood? Let's apply Coase's logic. If the judge orders the candy maker to stop, and the candy maker's business is highly profitable, say he makes $1,000 a week, but the doctor's practice only makes $500 a week, what will happen? The candy maker will simply walk next door and say, Doctor, I will pay you $600 a week to move your consultation room to the other side of your house. The doctor takes the money, moves his room, and both businesses survive. But what if moving the doctor's room is incredibly expensive? What if it costs the doctor $10,000 to move, but the candy maker can easily buy a quieter machine for just $2,000? Even if the judge says the candy maker has the absolute legal right to be noisy, the doctor won't spend $10,000 moving. Instead, the doctor will go to the candy maker and say, I will buy you that new, quiet $2,000 machine if you agree to use it. The candy maker gets a free upgraded machine. The doctor saves $8,000 by not having to move, and the problem is solved. Do you see the pattern? When people are allowed to trade and negotiate, they will always find the cheapest, most efficient way to solve a problem. The law simply decides who has to write the check. It decides who is initially richer or poorer, but it does not stop the village from achieving the best overall outcome. But wait, if the free market is so perfect and people can just negotiate everything, why do we need courts at all? Why do we have lawsuits, zoning laws, and environmental regulations? This brings us to the final, and perhaps most important, part of the Coase Theorem. Everything we just talked about only works in a magical world where transaction costs are zero. But in the real world, transaction costs are never zero. What are transaction costs? They are the friction of real life. It's the time it takes to find the person you need to talk to. It's the money you have to pay a lawyer to draft a contract. It's the emotional pride and stubbornness that makes neighbors hate each other and refuse to speak. Let's go back to our village. What if, instead of one farmer, there are 1,000 small farmers, and the cow is trampling a little bit of everyone's wheat? Even if the cow is worth more than all the damaged wheat combined, the rancher cannot practically go and knock on 1,000 different doors, negotiate 1,000 different contracts, and pay off 1,000 different people. The transaction costs are too high. The paperwork alone would cost more than the cow. Because the rancher cannot negotiate, the market fails. The efficient outcome does not happen. The village is stuck with a conflict. And this is why the law is so incredibly important. Ronald Coase's ultimate message was not that we don't need the law. His message was that because transaction costs in the real world are high, the courts have a massive responsibility. When people cannot easily negotiate with each other, the judge's initial ruling is final. Therefore, the judge cannot just lazily rely on old moral ideas of who is good or bad. The judge must look at the economics. The judge must do the math for the village. The judge must ask, since these two neighbors cannot figure it out themselves, which ruling will result in the lowest cost and the highest wealth for our society? If a train company's sparks are setting fire to a farmer's crops, and there are hundreds of farmers along the track, they can't easily negotiate. The court must step in and decide. Is it cheaper for the railroad to install spark arresters on the trains, or is it cheaper for the farmers to stop planting crops near the tracks? The law must assign the responsibility to the party that can fix the problem at the lowest possible cost. So, let's bring it all together. What is the Coase Theorem? First, it teaches us that economic harm is a two-way street. It is a conflict over scarce resources. Second, it reveals that if there is no friction, if people can bargain freely, they will always trade their way to the most wealth-maximizing solution, no matter what the law says. But third, and most importantly, it tells us that in our messy, complex reality, friction is everywhere. Because we cannot always negotiate, the way we design our property rights and our laws will directly shape how wealthy, productive, and harmonious our society can be. The next time you see a dispute, whether it's a loud neighbor, a polluting factory, or a cow eating the wheat, don't just ask, who is to blame? Ask instead, what is the most efficient way to solve this? And how can we arrange the rules so the whole village thrives? Thanks for watching, and see you next time.